Before time itself unfurled its endless scroll, before the stars whispered their ancient secrets across the velvet skies, there was only the great silence, an infinite expanse of mystery and possibility. From this vast stillness, a spark ignited, a breath of the divine that stirred the cosmos into motion. Worlds were born from whispers, oceans danced beneath newborn suns, and the earth, like a sleeping giant, began to awaken with life. This is the tale of that awakening, a story of light and shadow, of fierce storms and serene dawns, where gods and mortals, spirits and creatures, wove the very fabric of existence. Join us now on a journey beyond the edges of time, where ancient powers clash and sacred promises echo through endless skies. Witness the birth of the mountains, the song of the rivers, and the first heartbeat of humanity, the beginning of all adventure. This is creation, not merely a story told, but a world alive with wonder, waiting for you to step inside. Prepare to enter the first days of the world and discover the magic that set everything in motion. In the beginning, there was no sky, no sea, no stone beneath foot or star above head. There was only the great stillness, an infinite hush that stretched across the breathless void. No sound dared pierce it. No shape had dared emerge from it. It was the waiting breath before the first word, the slumber of all things yet unborn. But in that hush there stirred a thought eternal, ancient beyond measure, yet young as the first spark. It was the Creator, veiled in mystery, crowned in silence. And within him burned the longing to reveal, to shape, to love. He did not speak as men speak. No lips moved, no wind carried syllables. But from within him surged a word, a mighty, living word that echoed through the abyss. And that word was not merely spoken. It was released like fire from a forge, like the strike of a sword upon stone. Let there be light. And so it began. Light erupted, not like a candle lit, but like 1,000 suns awakening. It danced and whirled across the deep, fleeing the edges of night, spilling radiance upon the formless depths. In that moment, time itself awoke, yawning into its first second. The Creator beheld the light and saw that it was good. He separated it from the darkness, giving birth to the first boundary, the first law, day and night. And the dance of the heavens had begun. But this was only the first note in a great symphony. The Creator's hands, unseen and divine, moved again. He carved the sky with invisible blades, shaping the waters and vaulting the firmament above the earth. Clouds gathered like watchful guardians. Below, the waters churned, waiting for their name, for their purpose. And so came the voice again, not a whisper this time, but a command, rich and full. Let the waters be gathered, and let dry land appear. Mountains rose like sleeping giants stirred from slumber. Valleys yawned, rivers twisted in silver ribbons, and the seas surged with jubilant force. He called the land earth, and the waters he named seas. And the earth, at his breath, began to blossom. Grass unfurled, trees stretched toward the firmament. Flowers burst forth in unimagined colors. No eye had yet seen, but still they bloomed in joy, their scent rising to the heavens like a prayer. The land was clothed in splendor, as if prepared for royalty. Still, the Creator was not finished. He gazed into the sky, now ready for its ornaments, and he spoke again. Let there be lights in the heavens to mark the days and seasons. And so the sun blazed into life, golden and mighty. The moon was cast like a silver coin upon the night, and the stars, 1,000 lanterns, were hung across the velvet dark. The heavens sang. A chorus of light filled the sky, and time found its rhythm. The days passed, each filled with wonder, each guided by purpose. Creation unfolded like the pages of an ancient book, one divine word at a time. But the greatest marvel had yet to be born. From the dust of the earth, the Creator would soon breathe life into the image of himself. And with that breath, a new adventure would begin, one that would echo across all ages. The world was ready. And the story had only just begun. Chapter 1. The Awakening of Eden. Beneath the gaze of newborn stars and the watchful eye of the sun, the earth stood in hushed reverence. Forests rustled with anticipation, as if the very leaves held their breath. Rivers whispered secrets only the wind could understand, weaving through the land like veins of ancient memory. The world, though breathtakingly beautiful and alive with the chorus of creation, carried a quiet emptiness, a yearning for something more, something that could walk among the marvels and call them by name. And the Creator, in the stillness of dawn, knelt upon the soil. From the rich earth, warm with the breath of heaven itself, he gathered dust, not ordinary dust, but sacred, chosen by his divine will. In his hands, both gentle and powerful, he shaped it carefully, not with haste but with a patient, loving purpose. The form of a being emerged, broad of shoulder, strong of limb, yet delicate with mystery and grace. A vessel unlike any other, born of the earth but destined for something far greater. Then he leaned close, and with the gentlest breath, a whisper that carried the spark of eternity, he filled it with life. The dust stirred, fingers flexed, eyes opened, not in fear, but in awe, for they beheld their Maker in the first light of consciousness. And man drew his first breath, not mere air, but spirit, a soul kissed by timelessness, infused with divine fire. His name was Adam. He stood, not as a creature of instinct, but as a prince crowned with glory. The earth beneath his feet seemed to pulse with recognition. The wind carried his scent like a sacred hymn. The stars paused their eternal dance to gaze upon this new wonder. He was the first among many, a beginning woven with divine intent and infinite possibility. And the Creator smiled. He led Adam to a garden, not merely a patch of green, but a sanctuary sculpted by celestial hands and crowned with eternal light. Eden, a place where peace flowed like a crystal river, where lions lay beside lambs, and fruit gleamed like jewels upon trees untouched by the ravages of time. In Eden, all things moved in perfect harmony. The birds sang praises in unseen tongues, melodies that stirred the soul. The ancient trees bowed reverently when the soft wind passed through their branches. Streams laughed over smooth stones, and flowers bloomed in perpetual worship of the Creator's presence. But Adam was not alone in this paradise. The Creator, ever near, walked with him in the cool of the evening. They spoke, not only with words, but with hearts intertwined as father and son. Wisdom was shared like a sacred flame. Joy was complete, and the days passed wrapped in golden wonder. Yet, the Creator knew a truth that stirred even the heavens. It was not good for man to be alone. And so, from Adam's side, not his head, to rule him, nor his feet, to be trampled, but from his heart, the Creator shaped a companion. She came forth radiant, bearing the light of divine intent and eternal grace. Her name was Eve. When Adam beheld her, something ancient and new awakened within him. Not just recognition, but communion, a sacred bond that echoed through eternity. They stood together, naked yet unashamed, bearing the very image of the one who had made them. Together, they named the beasts, walked the secret paths of Eden, and listened to the voice of the Creator echo through the wind and water. They were stewards of a perfect world, guardians of a fragile and holy harmony. But beyond Eden's borders, shadows stirred. For even in paradise, the seeds of choice must be sown. And with choice comes the echo of destiny, an adventure only just beginning. Chapter 2. The Tree in the Heart of the Garden. At the very center of Eden, where the rivers met like silver veins upon emerald skin, stood two trees unlike any others. They rose tall and ancient, their branches reaching toward the heavens, crowned with leaves that shimmered like woven light caught in a gentle breeze. One bore fruit of immortality, the tree of life, radiant and eternal. The other, cloaked in mystery and warning, was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, its presence a silent sentinel between innocence and choice. The Creator had spoken plainly and with grave authority. You may eat of every tree in the garden, but of the tree of knowledge you shall not eat, for in the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. And so the tree stood, untouched yet never forgotten, a living test of trust and freedom. Adam and Eve lived joyously beneath Eden's endless canopy. Each day was a hymn of gratitude. Each night, a lullaby sung by shimmering stars that whispered secrets of the cosmos. They laughed with the creatures of the earth, danced barefoot in sunlit meadows, and listened in wonder to the eternal songs of the river as it meandered through the garden's heart. The garden gave without demand, an endless fountain of life and beauty, and the love between them grew deep, rooted in innocence, trust, and the sacred bond they shared. But shadows began to lengthen across the paradise. From the edge of this sacred realm, something watched, neither beast nor man, but a spirit cloaked in cunning and ancient guile. A serpent, old as time itself, slithered with a mind sharp as a blade and eyes burning with hunger, not for food, but for dominion and deceit. Though it moved low upon the ground, its thoughts soared high, daring to challenge the order of heaven. It waited, patient as stone carved by the ages, until one morning when Eve wandered alone beneath the boughs of the forbidden tree. She did not come to disobey, but to wonder, to gaze upon the fruit that glistened with an unnatural beauty, tempting the eye and stirring the soul. From the shadowed coils of the tree, the serpent spoke with a voice smooth and silky as silk spun in moonlight. Did God really say you must not eat of any tree in the garden? Startled yet curious, Eve answered, We may eat of all trees, except this one. We must not touch it, lest we die. The serpent smiled, its voice a whisper weaving around her heart like a spell. You shall not surely die. God knows that when you eat it, your eyes shall be opened. You shall be like him, knowing good and evil. Eve hesitated. The fruit swayed gently in the breeze like a jewel calling her name, its colors shimmering with promise and mystery. The desire to understand, to be more, to know what lay beyond innocence, whispered deep in her bones. With trembling hand, she reached forth. She ate, and in that moment, something unseen but profound shattered, the fragile veil between ignorance and knowledge torn asunder. Adam found her there, the fruit already in her hand. Her eyes, once pure mirrors reflecting the Creator's light, now held something new. Knowledge, fear, power. And when she offered it to him, he took it without hesitation, not out of defiance, but out of love, for he could not bear to be apart from her, even in this moment of transgression. And their eyes were opened. They saw themselves naked and vulnerable, exposed before a truth they had never known. Shame fell upon them like a heavy cloak, cold and suffocating. They fled into the trees, sewing fig leaves to cover what had never been shameful before. As evening fell, the voice of the Creator walked once more in the garden, a voice tender but searching. Adam, where are you? But man did not answer with joy. He answered with fear. I heard you and hid, for I was naked. And the Creator asked, Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of a tree? Truth, now a burden heavier than any before, was confessed. And judgment came, not with rage, but with sorrow, the weight of a world changed forever. To the serpent, a curse, to crawl in dust and bear the mark of rebellion for all time. To the woman, pain in birth, and the weaving of destiny as the mother of all life. To the man, toil and labor, for the ground would no longer yield its bounty without struggle and sweat. And so the gates of Eden closed behind them. But even as they were sent forth, the Creator clothed them, not in shame, but in mercy, and whispered a promise, that one day, from the woman's seed, a Savior would rise, one who would crush the serpent's head and restore the path once more to the tree of life. The garden faded behind them, but the story was far from over. It had only just begun. Chapter 3. The Sons of the Dust. Beyond the borders of Eden, the earth was wild and wide. Winds howled over barren hills, and the stars shone colder, distant in their silent watch. Yet amid the sorrow of exile and the weight of loss, life found its rhythm again, fragile, stubborn, and enduring. Adam and Eve, cast from paradise, built shelter with their own hands, learned the language of flame and harvest, the song of seasons and soil. They grew old in this new world, but they were not alone. For soon, their union bore fruit not of trees, but of flesh and blood. Their first son was Cain, strong, silent, a tiller of soil. From the earth's deep veins, he drew his strength, and in its dark furrows, he planted hope and labor. The land was harsh, but it was his to master. Then came Abel, gentle, bright-eyed, a keeper of sheep. He wandered the hills and sang to the lambs, his voice soft as the breeze that swept through the valleys. His heart beat with the rhythms of heaven, attuned to the quiet wonders of creation. And the Creator still watched. Though Eden was lost, the sacred bond was not broken. The sons of Adam brought offerings, Cain, the fruits of the field, Abel, the choicest lamb. The Creator, who sees beyond the surface, favored Abel's gift. For it was not in the form of the offering, but in the heart from which it came, a heart open and humble. Cain burned with jealousy. The seed of pride had been sown, and from it sprouted thorns that pierced deep. Under a sky heavy with silence and foreboding, he called his brother to the field. The very soil where wheat once grew, now soaked in tension and shadow. There the first blood was spilled. Abel fell, his eyes wide not with fear, but with sorrow, a sorrow that echoed across the earth. The ground drank his blood, and the heavens mourned. A cry rose from the soil, a cry that reached the ears of the Creator. "Where is your brother?" came the divine voice, breaking the stillness. Cain lowered his gaze, heavy with guilt and defiance. "Am I my brother's keeper?" he answered, a question that haunted the ages. But the ground spoke louder than his silence. And judgment fell, not with fire, but with exile. Cain was marked, not for vengeance, but for protection. A wanderer, a bearer of shame, he turned away from the land of his birth, moving eastward into the shadowed and forgotten places. And time moved on. Adam and Eve, hearts heavy with grief, yet still hopeful, bore another son, Seth. Through him, a new line would rise, one that remembered the Creator not only with offerings, but with reverence and faith. From generation to generation, people multiplied and spread across the earth. Cities were built, names were carved into stone. Yet the world had changed. Giants roamed the valleys, mighty beings whose footsteps shook the ground. Kings rose and fell, their crowns as fleeting as the wind. The children of men began to forget the voice that once walked with them in the garden. But not all. Among the multitudes, some still remembered. Some whispered the old stories, the breath of life, the lost garden, the promise of a coming one who would set things right. They looked to the stars and waited, and heaven watched, for the hearts of men were tilting toward darkness or toward the light. The balance trembled. Chapter 4. The Watchers of the Skies. In the high places where clouds kissed the mountaintops and the stars burned brighter than fire, the watchers beheld the world. They were neither men nor beasts, but ancient spirits, forged in the first light of creation, sentinels of heaven, guardians of divine order, timeless beings whose gaze pierced the veil of time and space. They were the sons of God, charged with the sacred task of observing the rise of humanity. They looked upon the daughters of men and beheld beauty beyond mortal reckoning. Curiosity stirred deep within their celestial hearts, blossoming into longing and longing into rebellion. Though bound by sacred duty, the pull of mortal desire was irresistible. They descended from their lofty heights, crossing the boundary between worlds. Upon the earth, they took wives and fathered children, hybrids of flesh and spirit, mighty and untamed. Giants, titans, heroes of old, whose strength could shatter mountains and whose voices made forests tremble with fear and awe. These were the Nephilim, beings of overwhelming power and terrible consequence. But their birth was no blessing. It rent a grievous wound in the fabric of creation. The Watchers, once noble and pure, now ruled as earthly kings. They taught mankind secrets never meant for mortal minds, the dark arts of sorcery, the strategies of war, the forging of deadly weapons, and the forbidden knowledge of the stars. What had been hidden became corrupted. What was sacred was defiled. The earth groaned beneath the weight of their sins. Blood soaked the soil. Cities burned in unending flames. Beasts, twisted by chaos, turned savage and hunted without mercy. The sky dimmed, its once radiant light veiled by shadow, and the hearts of men grew cold and cruel. Violence became law, mercy but a forgotten dream. And in the heavens, the Creator gazed down, not with surprise, but with profound sorrow. He saw that every intent of man's heart was evil continually. The world he had once called good now cried out for cleansing. Yet amid the rising tide of corruption, one man stood apart. Noah, a quiet soul, righteous in his generation. He walked faithfully with the Creator, even as storm clouds of judgment gathered on the horizon like a gathering tempest. While others built altars of pride and defiance, he listened, truly listened, to the whispers of heaven. And heaven spoke, "Build an ark, a vessel of salvation, crafted through obedience and sealed by unwavering faith. It would not shelter one man alone, but his family, and the creatures of the earth, 2 by 2, male and female, carried safely through the coming storm. For a great flood would rise, not merely of water, but of divine justice. The world would be washed clean, and a new story would begin. The Watchers, now bound in chains of shadow, were cast into the deepest abyss, awaiting judgment beyond the bounds of time. Their monstrous children, the Nephilim, perished beneath the relentless waves, their names fading slowly into the mist of legend. But Noah built, hammer by hammer, plank by plank. As mockers laughed and skies darkened, he labored in steadfast silence, a beacon of hope in a world drowning in its own echoes. And the rain had not yet fallen, but the heavens were preparing. Chapter 5. The Deluge and the Dawn. The sky, once gentle and blue, turned to iron, heavy with a weight that pressed upon the earth like a silent warning. A wind rose from the east, cold and ominous, carrying with it the breath of a world holding its last hope. Then, like 1,000 drums breaking the stillness of eternity, the first drops fell, soft at first, like whispers brushing against the skin, then fierce and relentless as the clash of war. The heavens opened. From above and below, the waters came. Fountains of the deep burst forth with a fury long restrained. Rivers swelled and leapt from their beds, as if the earth itself wept in sorrow and rage. Mountains bowed beneath the tide. Forests were torn from their roots. The earth, in all its defiance and sin, was swallowed whole by a tide of divine memory, a cleansing flood that washed away the stain of rebellion. And the ark, massive, solemn, and sealed, rose steadily upon the flood. Inside, Noah, his wife, their sons, and their wives sat in silence, bound by faith and the heavy weight of survival. Around them, the animals stirred, lion and lamb, hawk and hare, restless yet safe within the wooden fortress. Thunder cracked across the sky like the voice of forgotten gods, echoing the final judgment. For 40 days and 40 nights, the rain fell without mercy. Mountains disappeared beneath the waves. Forests were uprooted like twigs. The voices of cities were silenced, swallowed by the vast waters, and the earth was remade in tears and sorrow. But within the ark there was light, not the light of sun or star, but a light born from within, from faith unshaken. Noah's hands, hardened and calloused from obedience, held steady. His heart, though burdened with the weight of the world's end, did not falter. Then silence. One morning, the rain ceased. The waters stilled, stretching across the world like a vast mirror of judgment. The ark floated alone upon this endless sea of remembrance, beneath the silent, watchful heavens. Days passed in solemn waiting. Noah opened a window and released a raven. It flew to and fro, searching endlessly, but found no rest. Then he sent a dove, but it too returned, wings empty, bearing no sign of life. Hope waited, patient and quiet. On the seventh day, the dove was sent again, and this time it returned with a single olive leaf clutched gently in its beak. Life had stirred beneath the floodwaters. The earth had breathed again. And when the dove did not return on the following day, Noah knew the time had come. The ark came to rest upon the mountains of Ararat, its weathered wooden hull kissed by the rising sun and a gentle, cleansing wind. At last, the great doors were opened. Out they came, two by two, in a joyful procession. Lions blinked in the sunlight. Birds took to the air, singing in spirals that rose higher than the clouds. The earth, washed clean and renewed, welcomed them back with flowers pushing through the mud. Noah stepped forth, and his first act was neither conquest nor planting, but worship. He built an altar and offered thanks. And the Creator, breathing in the sweet scent of sacrifice, made a covenant. Never again would he flood the entire earth. A rainbow was cast into the sky, a promise painted in light, bridging heaven and earth. "You shall be fruitful and multiply," said the voice from above. "Fill the earth." And so, the world began anew, not with pride, but with humility. The sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth would become the fathers of nations. Their children's children would fill the valleys, climb the mountains, and dream once more. But not all dreams were pure. Even as the waters receded, shadows watched from the edges of memory. The serpent, though crushed beneath the flood, was not destroyed. It slithered beneath the soil of hearts, waiting patiently for man to forget the lessons of the past. And man, ever eager to rise, would soon seek to build again, not with faith, but with bricks. But for now there was peace. The storm had passed, and the dawn had come. Chapter 6. The Tower and the Tongues. The sons of Noah spread across the land, and the world bloomed once more. Valleys teemed with herds, rivers sang to the roots of vineyards, and fertile fields stretched beyond the horizon. Great cities rose like echoes of Eden's lost glory, monuments to human hope, ambition, and renewal. But with this growth, pride crept in like a shadow at dusk. In the plain of Shinar, where the earth was flat and the soil rich, men gathered with a single voice and a single dream. "Come," they said, "let us build a city and a tower that reaches the heavens. Let's make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered across the face of the earth." They baked bricks in fire and laid stone upon stone, forming a pillar to pierce the sky. Their hands shaped the tower as if to challenge the very heavens. They believed they could storm the realms of the divine, not by holiness or humility, but by hubris and pride. The tower rose, tall as ambition, cold as stone, a monument not to unity, but to self-exaltation. But heaven was not silent. The Creator, watching from beyond stars and time, descended, not in wrath, but with purpose. He saw the hearts of men, united not in love or worship, but in arrogance and fear of being lost. If left unchecked, nothing they imagined would be beyond them, not for good, but for corruption. And so, he scattered their speech. Where once there was one tongue, now there were many. Confusion reigned upon the builders. Brother could no longer understand brother. Instructions became riddles. Voices turned to noise, and the tower stood still, unfinished, a monument to the limits of man's reach. It was called Babel. Bewildered and divided, the people drifted away, north and south, east and west. Each carried their own language, their own gods, their own memories. The world fractured into tribes and nations, stories and songs born from confusion and separation. But amidst the scattering, a divine thread remained. In the deserts to the east, beneath a sky heavy with stars, one man listened. His name was Abram. He was not mighty in the eyes of the world, no king, no priest, no warrior. But he was chosen. For in his heart stirred a question older than the mountains. Who made all this? And one night, beneath a canopy of shimmering stars, the Creator spoke. Leave your country, leave your kindred, go to the land I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. Through you, all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram rose. He did not ask where the road led. He only walked. Through wilderness and war, hunger and wonder, he journeyed with faith as his compass. Beside him walked Sarai, his wife, barren, yet radiant with hope. They crossed rivers wide and treacherous, past altars of false gods and idols, and pitched their tent beneath oaks and endless skies. Wherever they paused, Abram built not towers, but altars, not monuments to man, but to the one who called him. And the promise followed like a shadow. A child, a son, a nation born not of might, but of miracle. The world watched as one man carried a covenant greater than any tower, forged not of brick, but of belief. And the stars above remembered, whispering secrets of faith through the ages. Chapter 7. The Covenant of the Stars. Abram wandered through lands both wild and strange. Hills rolled like sleeping giants beneath endless skies, and the winds whispered ancient secrets to the trees. Though he had no throne, no fortress, nor even a child of his own, the Creator called him blessed. But doubt, like a serpent, sometimes coiled in his heart. How shall I know? He asked one quiet night, gazing up at the heavens, his eyes searching the constellations for a sign, those eternal fires scattered across the black velvet of night. And the voice came, not thunderous, but deep as the roots of the world. Step outside your tent, Abram. Look up. He did. Above him, the sky blazed with stars, countless, glittering fires sewn into the tapestry of night, flickering like the breath of eternity itself. So shall your descendants be, the voice promised. In that moment, something ancient passed between the divine and the mortal. Not gold, not blood, but trust, pure and unspoken. And it was counted to Abram as righteousness. But still there was no child. Years passed. Sarai aged gracefully, her beauty untouched by time's hand, yet her womb remained silent. So she spoke what her heart could no longer bear alone. Take Hagar, my maidservant. Perhaps through her a son may come. And so it was. Hagar bore a son, and he was named Ishmael, wild, proud, a child of the desert wind. But the promise was not yet fulfilled. One afternoon, beneath the shade of great oaks in Mamre, 3 strangers arrived. Their faces shone with a light not of this earth. And Abram, sensing the holy in their footsteps, bowed low and offered bread and milk with trembling hands. And they spoke. By this time next year, your wife Sarai shall bear a son. Sarai, hidden behind the tent's curtain, laughed, not in joy but disbelief. Her laughter danced through the air like dust caught in sunbeams. But the strangers heard. Why did she laugh? They asked. Is anything too wonderful for the Lord? Then they rose and vanished like mist, leaving behind not just prophecy, but certainty. And true to their word, Sarai conceived. In her old age, her body became the cradle of destiny. The child was born, and laughter filled the house, not of doubt, but of delight. He was named Isaac, meaning he laughs. Now the covenant had flesh and blood, but the journey of faith is never paved with comfort. One day, the voice came again, clear, unyielding. Take your son, your only son, whom you love. Go to the land of Moriah. Offer him there as a sacrifice. Abram's heart shattered in silence. Yet, in the stillness of obedience, he obeyed. With Isaac and 2 servants, he climbed the mountain. Firewood rested on the boy's back, fire and knife in Abram's trembling hand. Isaac asked, Father, where is the lamb? Abram answered, voice thick with sorrow and faith, God will provide. At the summit, he bound his son and raised the blade. But before the knife could fall, a voice broke the heavens. Stop! Do not lay a hand on the boy. Abram turned, and there, caught in a thicket, was a ram, its horns tangled in the branches. The sacrifice was given, not demanded. The covenant sealed, not broken. And a mountain was named, "The Lord will provide." From that day forth, the stars no longer looked the same, for in their gleaming light, Abram saw not only fire, but legacy, hope, and an unbreakable bond between heaven and earth. And the world waited for the echo of that sacrifice, a time when another father would offer another son. But that day was far ahead. For now, the promise lived in the tents of nomads and the dreams of prophets. Chapter 8, The Twin Nations. Time flowed like the Jordan, sometimes calm, sometimes wild, carrying with it the stories of generations yet to come. Isaac, child of laughter and promise, grew into a man of quiet strength and steady faith. He married Rebekah, a woman radiant as the morning light, whose presence seemed to stir the very air around her. Together, they sought the blessing of heaven, longing for a future that would stretch beyond their own days. But Rebekah's womb was still, silent as the desert before the storm, and Isaac pleaded with the Lord, his heart heavy with hope and longing. And the Lord listened. Within her, 2 children stirred, twins locked in a struggle before breath ever touched their lungs, their restless movements echoing the destiny that awaited them. Rebekah cried out in anguish, "Why is this happening to me?" And the Creator answered, his voice deep as the earth itself. 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples shall be separated. One shall be stronger, and the elder shall serve the younger. When the time came, the first boy emerged red and hairy, like a wild creature born of the earth itself. He was named Esau, strong, untamed, a man of the wilderness. The second clung to his brother's heel as if refusing to be left behind. He was named Jacob, the one who grasps, destined to hold tightly to the threads of fate. The boys grew as different as fire and water. Esau became a hunter, fierce and free, the wind his ally and the bow his pride. His spirit roamed the hills and valleys, a wild force unbound by walls or tents. Jacob was quiet and thoughtful, dwelling among tents, a man of cunning and dreams, his eyes always fixed on things beyond the visible. Isaac loved Esau for the game he brought to the table and the strength he displayed. But Rebekah loved Jacob for the promise she saw flickering in his steady gaze. One day, Esau returned from the fields, exhausted and starving. The rich smell of lentil stew filled the air, warm and inviting. Jacob saw his chance. "Sell me your birthright," Jacob said, his voice steady. Esau laughed bitterly, the edge of hunger sharpening his words. "What good is a birthright if I die of hunger?" And so, for a simple bowl of red stew, Esau traded away the inheritance of nations. Time passed, and Isaac grew old and blind, his days numbered. Knowing death approached, he summoned Esau to receive the final blessing, the blessing meant to secure the future. But Rebekah moved quickly. She clothed Jacob in Esau's garments, covered his hands with goat skin to mimic his brother's hairy skin, and prepared the meal Isaac loved. Jacob entered his father's tent, trembling with the weight of what he must do. Isaac touched his son's hands. "The voice is Jacob's," he said slowly, "but the hands are Esau's." And he gave the blessing meant for the firstborn, promises of dominion, of abundance, and of divine favor that would shape the destiny of nations. When Esau discovered the deception, his roar shook the camp like thunder. Betrayed and furious, he vowed to kill Jacob. So Jacob fled into the wilderness, alone but not forsaken, carrying with him the heavy burden of his father's blessing and his mother's fears. That night, he stopped to rest with a stone for a pillow, the vast sky his only roof. And in his dreams, a ladder appeared, stretching from earth to heaven. Angels ascended and descended its rungs like golden fireflies dancing through eternity. Above it stood the Lord, radiant and unyielding. "I am the God of your father and your father's father. I will give you this land. I will be with you wherever you go." Jacob awoke in awe, heart pounding with a newfound hope. "Surely the Lord is in this place," he whispered, "and I did not know it." He called it Bethel, house of God. The deceiver had begun a journey not just of distance, but of transformation. For the road of destiny winds through deserts and dreams, through deception and devotion, until the soul becomes what it was always meant to be. And in the stars above, heaven watched, waiting patiently for Jacob to become Israel. Chapter 9. Jacob becomes Israel. Jacob fled through the dust and silence of the wilderness, his feet heavy with fear and the weight of fate pressing upon him like a stone. He journeyed eastward, following a path both physical and spiritual, toward the house of Laban, his mother's kin, seeking refuge, and perhaps something more than safety. There, amidst the dust and the tents, he met Rachel, whose beauty was like the first breath of spring after a long and bitter winter. Her eyes sparkled with galaxies unknown, deep and mysterious, and Jacob's heart bowed before her, caught in a snare sweeter than any trap of the wild. He labored 7 long years for her hand, enduring hardship and toil, his love unwavering. Yet the trickster was tricked. On the wedding night, veiled in shadows and wine, Laban deceived him, giving Leah, Rachel's elder sister, instead. Only when the morning sun spilled light upon the tent did the harsh truth reveal itself. "Why have you deceived me?" Jacob cried, his voice raw with betrayal. Laban's reply was calm and steady, like a river hiding sharp stones beneath its surface. "It is not our custom to marry the younger before the elder. Work 7 more years, and Rachel will be yours." And so Jacob did, bound by love and duty. Years passed. Leah bore sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, each child a stone in the foundation of a future nation. But Rachel remained barren, her sorrow deeper than the darkest night, a quiet ache that only the heavens could hear. At last, heaven opened her womb, and Joseph was born, a child wrapped in promise and dreams, a spark of light in the family's unfolding story. But Jacob's journey was far from over. One night, with his wives, children, and flocks safely sent ahead, Jacob crossed the river Jabbok. He stayed behind, alone in the stillness, surrounded by the whispering winds of the desert. In that silence, a presence approached, neither man nor spirit, wrapped in moonlight and mystery. And they wrestled. All night they struggled, limb to limb, heart to heart, the earth beneath them holding its breath. Jacob clung with desperation born of destiny, refusing to release the unseen force that challenged him. "Let me go," the being said as dawn's fingers brushed the horizon with pale light. "I will not let you go," Jacob gasped, "unless you bless me." The being touched his hip, wrenching it from its socket, yet Jacob held fast, pain igniting his resolve. "What is your name?" asked the voice. "Jacob," he replied. "No longer," the voice declared. "You are now Israel, for you have wrestled with God and with men, and you have prevailed." And with that, the being vanished into the rising sun. Jacob limped away from the river, but he walked taller than before. He had seen the face of God and lived. He had become Israel, not just a man, but a people. Soon after, he met Esau, expecting wrath but finding tears. The 2 brothers embraced, and forgiveness bloomed like wildflowers on a battlefield long scarred by hatred. Jacob settled in the land of Canaan. His household grew, and the dreams of his son Joseph stirred like clouds gathering before a storm. For Joseph was no ordinary boy. He dreamed of stars bowing before him, of sheaves bending in reverence. Yet the brothers, poisoned by jealousy and fear, plotted in silence. One day, they cast him into a pit and sold him to strangers, washing their hands of the dreamer. They brought his coat, stained with goat's blood, to Jacob. He wept bitterly. "My son is devoured. I will mourn him until I descend to the grave." But far from home, Joseph was not dead. He was rising. Down into Egypt he went, not as a slave bound by chains, but as a servant of destiny. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had not forgotten his covenant. And soon, neither would the world. Chapter 10. Joseph's Rise. In the land of Egypt, beneath the ever-watchful gaze of the sun god Ra, Joseph found himself a stranger among strangers. Sold into bondage by his own blood, betrayed by jealous brothers, He was a boy cloaked in dreams, now trapped in a land of harsh shadows and silent pyramids. Yet within him burned a fire that no prison walls could extinguish, a fire fed by visions from beyond, by a destiny whispered in the language of stars and dreams. His master's house was his first test. Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard, recognized something rare in Joseph, a quiet strength, a wisdom beyond his years, and a spirit unbroken by hardship. Before long, Joseph was entrusted with all the household's affairs, managing wealth and servants with a sharp eye that missed nothing. But envy never sleeps. Potiphar's wife, burning with desire and spite, cast false accusations against Joseph, her lies landing him in the dark depths of a prison where hope seemed to wither. Yet even in the shadows, Joseph's gift shone bright. In that cold, silent place, he met two fellow prisoners, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, each troubled by dreams that held hidden meaning. Joseph listened with care, and through the language of dreams, the future whispered its secrets. To the cupbearer, "You will rise and serve Pharaoh again," Joseph declared with calm certainty. To the baker, "Your life will end by the sword," he warned. When the prophecies came true, the cupbearer promised to remember Joseph when freedom came. But years passed, and the promise was forgotten. Then, Pharaoh himself dreamed, a mystery wrapped in visions. 7 fat cows, proud and strong, were devoured by 7 gaunt and withered cows. 7 healthy ears of grain were swallowed by 7 thin, blighted ears. A chill of distress gripped Egypt's heart. No seer could unravel the puzzle. Only Joseph, summoned from obscurity, could interpret. 7 years of plenty will come, he explained, followed by 7 years of famine. Prepare by storing grain in the years of abundance, so the land may endure the lean years. Pharaoh's eyes shone with awe and newfound hope. "Can such a man be found?" he asked his court. "Here is the man," said the cupbearer, stepping forward. Pharaoh raised Joseph to the highest office, second only to himself. With wisdom as his sword and foresight as his shield, Joseph guided Egypt to prepare for the coming storm. When the famine struck, its grip was ruthless, and the world beyond Egypt's borders grew desperate. Jacob's sons, bowed by hunger and need, came seeking sustenance from the land that had once swallowed their brother whole. Joseph revealed himself, not with wrath or bitterness, but with mercy and love. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. "I am your brother." Tears flowed freely, washing away years of pain and betrayal. The family reunited, a thread once broken, now woven anew by forgiveness and grace. Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and Egypt became a sanctuary, a refuge for the chosen people. The promise of Abraham, sealed through trials, tears, and triumphs, moved ever closer to fulfillment. Yet the journey was far from over. For the seed sown in Joseph's trials would one day grow into a nation, mighty and many. And the land of promise waited patiently beneath the watchful stars, ready to embrace its children. Chapter 11. The Gathering Storm. Years passed like shadows stretching at sunset, and the family of Jacob, now called Israel, multiplied in the fertile lands of Egypt. Their tents became villages, villages grew into tribes, and tribes blossomed into a people destined for greatness, their stories weaving into the fabric of a new future. But peace is a fragile jewel, easily shattered by the winds of change. A new Pharaoh rose to power, one who knew not Joseph, nor the kindness and wisdom that had once saved his land. His heart was gripped by fear and suspicion, tightening like a vice around the growing people. "These people grow too numerous," he declared with a voice heavy with dread. "If war comes, they will join our enemies and fight against us." So the chains of oppression tightened. The children of Israel were cast into slavery, their backs bent under the weight of harsh labor, their spirits tested by cruel taskmasters. Their cries echoed through the sandstone valleys, rising like a silent prayer, reaching the ears of heaven. But the Creator had not forgotten his promise to the patriarchs. From the ashes of despair, a deliverer would arise. Born in secret, hidden among the reeds by the river's edge, a child destined to change the course of history was given a name whispered in trembling hope: Moses. Raised as a prince of Egypt, Moses bore the blood of Israel in his veins, carrying within him a fire of destiny that refused to be dimmed. As he grew, Moses witnessed the suffering of his people. His heart broke like a storm-torn sea, filled with sorrow and rage. One day, a fury sparked within him. He struck down an Egyptian who oppressed a Hebrew, an act born of justice and desperation. Fearful for his life, Moses fled into exile, crossing into the wilderness of Midian, a land of silence, solitude, and endless stars. There, tending flocks beneath the vast sky, Moses encountered the miraculous, a burning bush that blazed with holy fire yet was not consumed. "Remove your sandals," the voice commanded from the flames. "I'm the God of your fathers. I have seen the affliction of my people. I will send you to Pharaoh to free them." Moses trembled, overwhelmed by the weight of the calling. "Who am I to face Pharaoh?" he asked, doubt shadowing his courage. "I will be with you," came the steady answer. "This is my name forever, the eternal presence." And so, with staff in hand and faith burning in his heart, Moses set out on a path marked by fire, miracles, and divine purpose. The journey to liberation had begun. Yet the road ahead was fraught with plagues and peril, miracles and murmurs, faith tested and hope reborn. The land of Egypt would soon tremble before the power of the living God, and the children of Israel would finally taste freedom's fierce and sweet breath. Chapter 12. The Plagues and the Passover. The wind shifted over Egypt, carrying with it the whispers of imminent change, stirring the air with a promise of liberation. Pharaoh, the mighty king of Egypt, sat upon his throne, his heart hardened like the stones of his pyramids. Time and again, Moses came with a divine demand to release the children of Israel from bondage. Yet Pharaoh's pride and stubbornness refused to bend. And so, the heavens opened their floodgates, unleashing a series of devastating signs to shake the foundations of Egypt itself. The first plague struck with fierce power. The Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt, the source of its wealth and life, turned crimson as blood. Fish floated lifeless on the surface. The waters stank with decay, and the land groaned under the weight of this unnatural curse. Pharaoh's magicians responded with their own illusions, twisting water into blood, but no trick could match the true power behind the plague. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained iron, unyielding. Then came the frogs, creatures of the waters, invading every corner: kitchens, ovens, beds. The people were overwhelmed by their croaking, their writhing bodies, a relentless plague of pestilence impossible to escape or ignore. Pharaoh's stubbornness deepened, and the punishments grew harsher. Dust turned to gnats, then swarms of flies blackened the skies, tearing at the people's patience and resolve. Livestock sickened and died. Painful boils broke out on man and beast alike. Hail rained down like thunderbolts, shattering crops and trees. Locusts descended in swarms, devouring every green thing in sight. Darkness thickened the skies, a suffocating shadow covering the land for days. Each plague was a hammer blow against the false gods of Egypt, a divine declaration that the God of Israel was supreme over all creation. Then came the most terrible plague of all, the death of the firstborn, a grief so deep it pierced every household. But God, in His mercy, provided a way to protect His people. He commanded the Israelites to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb, a sign for the angel of death to pass over their homes, sparing the lives within. That night, the shadow of death moved through Egypt, but the children of Israel were shielded. Thus, the feast of Passover was born, a sacred memorial of deliverance, of blood and sacrifice, of salvation and hope. At last, Pharaoh's heart broke under the weight of loss and fear. With trembling hands and a heavy heart, he commanded the Israelites to leave his land. The children of Israel marched forth, free at last, Across the desert, sands beneath a sky blazing with stars, their hearts filled with a new song of freedom. But Pharaoh's wrath was not yet spent. He sent his armies in furious pursuit, chariots pounding like thunder, intent on dragging them back into slavery's grip. At the shores of the Red Sea, a miracle awaited, a divine act that would be remembered through the ages. Moses lifted his staff, and the waters parted like towering walls of shimmering glass. The people crossed safely on dry land, the sea swallowing Pharaoh's army in a final roar that echoed through history. Freedom was won. The covenant was sealed. And so, the adventure of a nation had truly begun. Chapter 13, The Journey Through the Wilderness. With the sea behind them and freedom stretching wide before them, the children of Israel stepped boldly into the vast wilderness, a land both harsh and holy, where every grain of sand whispered secrets of trial and promise. It was a threshold between bondage and destiny, a place where the spirit was tested and faith was tempered like steel in the flames. The desert stretched endlessly, a relentless tapestry of blazing sun by day and biting cold beneath the star-filled sky at night. Jagged stones and shifting dunes formed an unforgiving landscape, challenging every step they took. Here, hope was fragile, like a flickering candle in the wind, and courage was something to be summoned anew each morning. Moses, their leader and prophet, guided them with unwavering resolve, following the divine light that danced before their eyes. A pillar of cloud by day, thick and sheltering, and a pillar of fire by night, blazing and fierce. This radiant sign was not just a guide, but a sacred reminder. They were never truly alone, for the presence of the Almighty walked with them through every hardship. Yet the journey was far from easy. Hunger gnawed at their spirits like a shadow that refused to lift. Their stomachs ached and their energy waned, as food became scarce in the barren land. Water was more precious than gold, often hidden deep beneath the unforgiving earth or locked away in dry riverbeds. Each step was a desperate search for life itself. Voices rose in complaint, murmurs of doubt and fear weaving through the camp like a chilling wind. But the God who had freed them was also a God of provision and mercy. From the heavens, manna fell like gentle dew, soft, white flakes that tasted sweet as honey and nourished not only their bodies but their souls. Each morning, the people gathered the miraculous bread, a daily gift that reaffirmed the divine promise and their covenant with the Creator. When thirst became unbearable, water burst forth from barren rock at Moses' command, rushing like a hidden spring revealed in a parched desert. The stream quenched their deepest longings and renewed hope among the weary travelers. Then came the sacred encounter on Mount Sinai. There, amid thunder and lightning, smoke and fire, the laws were given, words carved in stone by the very finger of God. The 10 Commandments, fiery, eternal, and just, were to be the foundation of a people called to live in justice, mercy, holiness, and love. Yet even as the mountain smoke curled heavenward, rebellion stirred within the camp. In a moment of fear and impatience, the people fashioned a golden calf, an idol of defiance, born from forgetfulness and desperation. This shining but hollow image became a painful symbol of human frailty and the struggle to trust the unseen. Moses, pleading with fierce passion, begged for mercy on their behalf. Humbled by their error, the people repented, and the journey pressed onward. Every step through the wilderness was a test of faith. Every hardship, a lesson etched deep into their collective soul. Through raging storms and silent sands, through endless days under the blistering sun and nights wrapped in cold shadows, the children of Israel moved forward, toward a promise whispered in their ancestors' dreams. A land flowing with milk and honey, a place where hope could take root and blossom. But the wilderness was never simply a place of wandering. It was a crucible of transformation. Here, amid dust and sky, a nation was being forged, shaped by fire and faith, tempered by trials and hope, and finally prepared to claim its destiny as God's chosen people. Chapter 14, The Promised Land in Sight. After years of wandering through endless sands and rugged hills, through scorching days and star-filled nights, the children of Israel finally reached the edge of the Promised Land, a land whispered about in ancient dreams and sacred promises, a land where destiny waited like a slumbering giant ready to awaken. Before them stretched a vast tapestry of valleys lush with ripe grapes that hung like jewels in the sun, rivers winding like silver snakes carving their paths through fertile earth, and hills crowned with ancient olive trees that swayed gently in the warm breeze, their branches heavy not only with fruit, but with the weight of history and memory. But the land was not empty. It was alive with challenge and mystery. It breathed with the stories of those who came before, of kingdoms risen and fallen, and of forces unseen guarding its gates. 12 spies were sent to scout the territory, each a leader chosen from the 12 tribes, carrying the hopes and fears of a people longing for home. They ventured into cities fortified like impenetrable fortresses, their walls thick and high, standing like silent sentinels. They crossed fields patrolled by fierce warriors, whose armor gleamed under the sun and whose eyes held the fire of battle. They moved into shadows where giants were said to dwell, men whose very presence seemed to shake the earth. They returned with tales both wondrous and terrifying. 10 spies spoke of dread, their voices heavy with despair, painting pictures of giants towering like mountains and walls so vast they seemed to touch the heavens themselves. Their words spread like wildfire, seeding fear and doubt in the hearts of the people, causing whispers of retreat and rebellion. Yet amidst the voices of doubt, Joshua and Caleb stood firm, unshaken pillars of courage and faith. Their eyes burned with a fierce light, reflecting the fire of the divine within them, as they declared, "The land is ours. With God's help, we will conquer and settle." But the people's faith wavered like a flickering flame caught in a storm. Fear spread swiftly, hardening hearts once again, unwilling to embrace the promise shining before them like a distant star. Because of their doubt, the journey was prolonged. 40 long years wandering the wilderness, a generation passing like fleeting shadows beneath the relentless sun. The promise seemed distant, veiled behind the sands and time, yet never forgotten, a quiet flame that refused to be extinguished. Through it all, Joshua remained steadfast and faithful, chosen to lead the new generation forward. His voice was a trumpet of hope, calling the people to courage and trust, reminding them that the covenant was alive and that their destiny awaited beyond the horizon. Then came the moment of crossing. The Jordan River, swollen and wild with spring floods, roared like a mighty beast, blocking the path ahead. But at the command of the divine, the waters parted once more, standing tall like towering walls of glass, as if the desert itself opened a path for the faithful to tread. Ahead loomed the walls of Jericho, massive stones piled like ancient giants guarding secrets and fear, their shadows casting long over the land. With faith as their weapon and unity as their shield, the people marched around the city's walls day after day, their footsteps a steady rhythm of hope and defiance. On the 7th day, as the sun reached its peak and the air thrummed with anticipation, a great shout shattered the silence, a sound born of hope, faith, and unyielding spirit. The walls tumbled like dust caught in a tempest, crashing down to reveal the land's open arms. The land was theirs to claim. The promise was fulfilled, not by sword alone, but by faith, unity, and the guiding hand of the divine. A new chapter began, a nation rooted in hope, adventure, and the sacred covenant of creation, ready to write its story beneath the endless sky. Chapter 15. A nation born under the stars. The tribes settled at last, weaving their stories deep into the rich fabric of the promised land. From the fertile plains where golden grain swayed like waves beneath the sun's warm gaze, to the rugged mountains standing steadfast and silent against the endless march of time, a new people took root, strong, vibrant, and bound together by an unshakable faith that flowed like a river through every heart and home. Temples rose like whispers of heaven on earth, their stones heavy with prayer and purpose, each block laid with reverence and vision. The ancient songs of praise, carried by the winds and lifted by voices young and old, echoed beneath the vast, unending sky, a timeless chorus rising like incense, drawing souls upward toward the divine presence. From the ashes of wilderness and wanderings, leaders emerged: Samuel, David, and Solomon, each a beacon in the unfolding story of a nation destined to leave its mark on history. Warriors fierce and wise, poets whose words danced like flames, and kings anointed by the sacred hand to guide the people through storms and calm alike. David's harp sang melodies of courage and heart, weaving tales of battles fought with both sword and spirit, and of victories won by faith as much as by force. His psalms became the breath of the people, carrying their sorrows and hopes to the heavens. Solomon, the wise, built majestic temples that soared in grandeur and grace, their spires reaching upward as if to touch the very throne of heaven itself, a testament to wisdom, peace, and the glory of creation. Yet the path of destiny was never straight nor easy. Battles tested their resolve, shaking the very ground beneath their feet, while betrayals pierced the trust carefully woven into their community like sharp thorns hidden among the roses. Exile cast long shadows over their history, scattering the people like seeds upon foreign winds, yet the roots of their faith held fast beneath the soil of adversity. Through every trial and tempest, the promise of creation pulsed strong within them, a living flame that called for justice, mercy, and love, a light that refused to be extinguished even in the darkest nights. Beyond their land, beyond their hopes and fears, a greater story awaited. The dawn of a light that would shine upon all nations, a hope reborn in flesh and spirit. This light would kindle hearts, heal wounds, and weave new dreams into the vast tapestry of humanity. The adventure of creation, begun long ago in whispers and wonders, continued to ripple through eternity. From the dust of the earth to the breath of stars, the sacred journey stretched onward, limitless, infinite, and ever unfolding. And so, beneath the endless sky, the story of a people chosen to create, to love, and to believe goes on. A story of faith and struggle, of loss and triumph, and above all, of unyielding hope that reaches beyond the horizon, forever calling toward the future. Chapter 16. The Eternal Journey. The story of creation is far more than a tale from ages past. It is an eternal adventure, living and breathing within every heartbeat, unfolding anew with every dawn. From the first breath that stirred the formless void, through the birth of stars and the blossoming of life, the sacred dance of existence continues without end. The cosmos itself is a grand symphony composed by the divine, where every note, every movement is woven with purpose and love. Within each soul burns the original spark, the divine fire that holds the power to create, to hope, and to transform. This spark connects us across time and space, binding land and sky, people and spirit, in a single sacred truth. We are part of a vast, unfolding story, a story written by the hand of the divine, inscribed upon the endless scroll of time. As the pages of this cosmic narrative turn, new chapters beckon, brimming with wonder, challenge, and grace. Every life is a story, every moment a chance to shape the future and honor the past. The unknown stretches before us like an uncharted sea, inviting the brave and the faithful to sail onward, to explore realms of possibility beyond imagination. The adventure that began in the dawn of creation marches forward in each of us. It is a call to create, to believe, and to love, a gift handed down through generations, a legacy that never fades. It calls upon us to be architects of light in a world often shadowed by doubt, to be warriors of compassion amid the storms of despair. In this journey, we find both trials and triumphs, shadows and light, sorrow and joy, each experience a vital thread in the grand tapestry. Every challenge met, every fear overcome, weaves deeper meaning into the fabric of existence. Our stories, though fleeting, echo through eternity, shaping the destiny of all that is. And so, beneath the eternal stars, beneath the vast canopy of the heavens, the story goes on, not as a conclusion, but as an infinite unfolding. For creation is not a finished work. It is a living, breathing process, a journey without end, where each soul is both traveler and creator, both witness and participant. Forever.